Test. Test. right, we're going to call to order the City Council regular meeting for Monday, March 21st, 2022. And we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. We are going to have a special guest that's going to come with us the second meeting of every month. We are going to invite a local elementary school kid or a preschool student to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So tonight we are going to do that starting out with my daughter, Harper.
Oh.
So we got the flag that is right behind us. So if we'd all stand. Okay, good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Best Pledge of Allegiance ever. Oops. All right, thank you for joining us in that, and thank you to Harper for helping us with that.
Mr.
All right,
President, can I?
Yes, go ahead.
That's a great thing and great thing to see, but I was struggling between facing the flag and watching the individual. Can we maybe relocate the flag and so we can see the best of both, the young people involvement in the flag?
We might have to do that for next time.
I think you're right,
Yeah.
Mr. Bittner.
Yep. Yes. All right, on to number 3, roll call. Jamie.
All right. Mark Bittner,
Here.
Jeff Delkey,
Here.
Tracy Coach. Here. Bill Leclerc,
Here.
Darla Leclerc. Here. Jay Remiker,
Here.
Bonnie Shimulunis. Here. Larry Thomas,
Here.
Adam Husky.
Here. All right, on to number 4, which is a consideration of any council member requesting to participate in this meeting via a remote location. Tonight, we have Darla Leclerc joining us by phone. So we are looking for a motion to have her join us. Do I have a motion? Also motion. Thank you, Larry. Second by Bill. Any discussion? That is a roll call vote. Jamie.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Mark Bittner. Aye. Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach. Aye. Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Jay Remiker.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Larry Thomas.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you for that. Under number 5, we do have one public hearing. It is a public hearing on a zoning code ordinance change to planned unit development for the construction of a multifamily residential development at 3000 Forest Avenue. Recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. Looking at page 5 in our packets. Any background before we open this up, Greg?
Just briefly, it's been a while since we've had a hearing on planned unit development zoning. Our PUD ordinance provides that planned unit development is a zoning designation, but that any approval of a PUD or planned unit development also has as an integral part of that zoning, the approval of the development plan. So you have both the ordinance and the related development plan in your packets. That would be, and frankly, the two are kind of inseparable. That's the topic of the hearing and the council action. And our city community development director, Elizabeth, would be happy to answer any questions you have. Likewise, we do have the development team from 3000 Forest Avenue LLC. Again, this is the former Hanson the Florist property at 3000 Forest Avenue. Tim Schulke, Jim Olson, and Ed Fisher. And these folks have been at Personnel and Finance to talk about development agreement. Some of you, like Adam, that are on Plan Commission have seen them there as well as the plans have developed for their plans to construct 3 15-unit market rate apartment buildings on this site.
Okay, we're very excited for that project to come to fruition. So we're going to open this up for public hearing. If you wish to address the council on this topic, please step up to the podium. My right, your left. State your name and address for the record, and we will open up call number 1. See no one, we will close call 1, open it up for call 2. Closing call 2 and opening up the third and final call. All right, closing call 3. Looking for a motion from council. Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mark. Any council discussion? All right, Jamie, roll call vote.
Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Chap Delkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach. Aye. Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Jay Remiker,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulinis,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Wahusky.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I had
Go
mentioned
ahead.
to Council President Wahusky too, these gentlemen are here. There is another agenda item, that being 11A, related to the 3000 Forest Avenue development. At the developer's request, I would like to recommend tabling this at least until the next council meeting, which is the 28th, the work session, but with the understanding that if it's taken up at the work session, it would be for review of the final development agreement. I fully expect we'd be back at a regular televised meeting on the 4th of April for action on this. So just in the interest, while these gentlemen are here and we're talking about this project, if it's okay with the council, I would ask that you consider taking up this matter out of order and tabling it until the March 28th council meeting.
Okay, so we're going to take a motion to take this issue up out of order and do it right now. So I'm looking for a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jay. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, now we're going to take a motion to table this. Do I have a motion to table this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jay. Do I have a second? Thank you, Larry. Any council discussion?
City Attorney, help me out. Should that be to a date certain?
If you wanted to come up at a particular date, you could.
Okay, I'd suggest if it's okay with the maker and seconder, that be the 28th of March.
I'll say the 28th of March, yes.
I'm
okay with that as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you.
Again, thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, we will move on to number 6, which is input from the public. Anyone wishing to address the council on anything that is on this agenda or something you'd like to see on a future agenda, please step up to the podium. My right, your left, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to do some input from the public? All right. On to 7, which is council communications. Any letters or other communications from citizens that any council member would like to share? Oh, pretty quiet week. All right, we like those. All right, going to 8, council reports from boards, commissions, and committees. Anyone have anything they'd like to report on their boards, committees, or commissions? Mark?
Mr. President, I just want to remind the community that tomorrow at 10 o'clock, the Room Tax Commission meets here in this room, 10 o'clock. I think our tax revenues from hotels continue to come in, and it'll be an exciting meeting. So thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, then we're going to move right on to the city manager's report. Greg?
Okay, we have a couple or more invited guests today. First, we'd like to welcome up to the microphone representatives of the Two Rivers Business Association to address the Business Association's donation for the Central Park West project. And they're well represented tonight.
Yeah, it's a good group. Yeah. We just really wanted to support the Project 365 that's going on and get a little PR for TRBA as well. So on behalf of Two Rivers Business Association, we don't think you can cash. Hopefully you got the right.
It's really hard to get those in the drive-through things.
So for those that can't see that on TV, that is a check for $10,000 from TRBA. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. TRBA has historically partnered with the city on so many great projects, whether it was the community house renovation, some of our bike trail projects, Mariners Trail. They've always been great partners, and they've also been helpful sometimes at pointing out when we get a little bit astray as a city on things like sign regulations and other things. So we really appreciate that partnership. And Kyle, to you and your whole team, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. I would second that as well with the donation tonight, as well as the other donations that have come through. Is coming to fruition downtown, that this edition is going to be wonderful.
Next up, we have our school district administrator, Diane Johnson, and members of the Board of Education. I know we have in the audience as well as her team to talk about the facility assessment and survey from community stakeholders regarding the school district's capital plans.
Good
Welcome.
evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here with you. I'm Diane Johnson, the superintendent of schools, and we have a few other guests with us.
I'm Mary Kay Slattery. I'm the finance director for the district.
Jamie Salta, board president.
And Julie Schrader, a school board.
We would like to spend about 10 to 15 minutes with you, if that's okay, sharing some information about the school district. And we'll see. I'm probably going to kind of glance back to make sure that the clicker is actually clicking us forward. As you may know, we have 4 schools in the district. We have the high school, which is out of town, LB Middle School on the other side of town. We have Koenig, and we have McGee. And all of the pictures that you'll see in this presentation are pictures of our students.
Regarding our budget, there's some very specific funding sources that we have as far as where does our funding actually come from. The majority of our funding comes from state and federal aid, with second in line being our property taxes. We also have open enrollment revenue, and that is revenue that exchanged between districts that allows students from one district to attend another district. Whoever is the district of residence, they're the ones that have to pay the other district to educate their students, their residents. We also have a number of different grants that we receive, and we are very fortunate and thankful for all the donations that are made to the district as well. The next slide talks about what we call our revenue cap. And if you think about a revenue cap, think about it as an umbrella. And underneath that umbrella is a formula. And that formula is a calculation based on our student enrollment. Within that formula is 2 primary funding sources for us, and that is state aid as well as our property taxes. Essentially, we figure out what our revenue cap is going to be based on our student enrollment. In October of every year, we get our state aid certified. So we basically back into what the difference is to get our property taxes. They call it a revenue cap because that is the majority, or that is the most that we can actually receive to fund our budget from those 2 main sources. One thing that I do want to make sure that you can see from the chart that we have here is that our board has worked very hard to make sure that our taxes have been consistent and level, and we are a very heavily aided district in Wisconsin. There are some districts that don't get any state aid. So we certainly here in Two Rivers pay a lot of attention to when we're looking at a biennial budget and to see what is actually going to be changing in Madison. The next slide is a summary of how our budget dollars are spent. If you take a look at the 2 sections of green and red, that is actually makes up 3/4 of our budget. That's our salaries and benefits. Because we're in public education, we're a people business, so it only makes sense that that would be the largest share of our expenses. The next in line would be our what we call purchase services, and that's a little over $4 million. That's the blue piece of this chart. That would be the contracts that we have with vendors, busing, open enrollment costs. For instance, when we pay other districts to educate students that choose to go elsewhere, as well as vouchers for students that participate in the school choice program. Since the start of the pandemic, we received 3 rounds of what are ESSER dollars. And the first one was our CARES Act dollars. Those started at the beginning of the pandemic. Those dollars have been exhausted, and now we are working on our ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 dollars. We have to monitor how well we spend those, because in the second year of our biennial budget next school year, there is no revenue cap increase per pupil. So we won't be getting any additional funds from the state for the calculation of our revenue cap. You can see with our enrollment numbers, we actually have been very consistent, roughly hovering around 1,700 students per year, going all the way back to the 2013-14 school year. We had one blip in 18-19 where we had some additional students that were coming into our Lighthouse Learning Academy, which is our charter school.
So just to share with you kind of what is the makeup of those students that are part of our district. And if you've noticed, we've tried to give you a 5-year history. So because 1 year might just be a blip in time, but 5 years kind of might be a pattern. So you can see we've listed up there poverty level, disability, English language learners. So starting back with poverty level in 16-17, poverty was about 37%. Currently, it's about 52.6%. Poverty is measured by how many students apply for free and reduced lunch. So in our district, 1 of less than 2 kids are living in poverty below that level of living, which is, it's also a city consideration as well. Students with disability, that could be any student with any disability. It might be a student who needs speech and language assistant, to a student who has autism, to a student that's wheelchair bound. So that's our level there. And then also English language learners. Those are kids who are coming in who are dual, who have dual language, Spanish speaking, Hmong students, any of the languages. So you can see that number has risen as well over the years.
Next thing that we're going to talk about is our mill rate. That's actually something that I'm sure you are familiar with as well here at the city level. It actually represents the amount per thousand of property value. So if you want to figure out how to determine what your taxes are, you take your mill rate times your property value and divide that by 1,000. You can see where we fall in relation to other school districts, the state average being $8.67 per thousand of equalized value, and to Rivers here we are at $8.43, both for this school year as well as for the last school year. You can see in the next slide, we have a graph of where we have been since the 2015 school year. Something to keep in mind is that the mill rate will fluctuate based on a change in property value, but overall our tax levy for the district has stayed level over time. And you can see how things have changed since the 2015 year, a lot being decreased because of the payoff of Two Rivers High School.
So you may have, and hopefully you received in your mailbox, a survey. So the district decided to hire a company called Bray Architects and C.G. Schmidt to do a full study of our district. They were looking at every aspect of the district, not just the inside, but the outside. They were looking at athletic fields and parking lots and sidewalks and air conditioning units and heating units and boilers and classroom sizes. And they were looking at everything. I'm actually going to hold up a book to show you what they accomplished. So this was one of 2 books that they gave us, 2 volumes of what did we notice in your district? What were the needs that we put together and noticed? On a committee, so the other thing is we started meeting every other week. Every other Tuesday, we had a committee of 17 people meeting together to really talk about what are the true needs of our district. We had community members and parents, and Elizabeth was part of that for this, representing the city, and administrators and teachers. And we thought it was really important to get input from all of those groups of people. You can see that 3 of the 4 buildings are a bit older. And so, of course, with that age, just like if your house is older, comes some needs within.
That brings it up to me. It looks like one of the key items they identified was LB Clark. And just kind of looking around the room, I seen a couple people that went to that building. And when I walked through there, just to tell you where I'm at, I'll be celebrating my 40th class reunion this coming fall. And I know you can't believe I'm that old, but yes. But anyway, when I walked through the building, not many changes were made to that building in the past 40 years or 45 years. But one of the things that they identified was overcrowded halls during transition times. And just to speak on that a little bit too, a while back, we eliminated a school in our district. For those of you that don't know it, we completely got rid of a K through 5 school, and then 2 other schools absorbed that. And then LB Clark went from a middle school, true middle school, 7th and 8th grade, to a 5th through 8th grade. So that school now houses 5th through 8th grade, and it's tight. I don't know any of the parents that have children going there right now. They know what tight quarters it is. The other thing they identified is the drop off in neighborhood traffic in that area. As more and more people want to drive their children to school, we have more and more traffic problems around the building. Outdated infrastructure. And then another key thing that we identified at all of our schools, and especially at LB Clark, was safe entrance. And what we mean there by safe entrance is once one of the employees lets an individual in the school, they basically have open access to the entire school. What we want to do is actually have a safe entry where they come in, they get identified, they get spoken to. We determine that, the person's okay to enter our building. So it will be another, like a hallway area that we can, again, kind of monitor the people coming in and out of our building. And then the other thing was outdated playgrounds. In the next slide here, we'll talk about a little bit of the items that we'd like to see there. And this is kind of proposed by our survey team. And if you look at number 1, that would be in addition to the school, and it's added space. And basically, we're trying to get the 5th grade kind of on their own. And then I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but basically 2, 3, 4, 3, 7, 8. It's all a reconfiguration of what we have there existing. During the survey and the committee all agreed that the building itself was in good shape. The site is an unbelievable site in our city. So we wanted to keep the school there. And number 5, that's one of the real big additions you'll see there. And that's going to be a new FIAD unit that we would put in, and then opening up our cafeteria in the old FIAD area to more space for industrial arts and the cafeteria area. Why is LB Clark so full? That school was built in 1969, and again, for 7th and 8th grade, and some of the district K-6 overflow, and that was in later years. In 1990, we did an addition, and that was on the west side of the building. Those of you from town are probably familiar with that, basically where the industrial arts and music is housed there. 1998 addition on the east side of the building. And that there was basically an addition of I believe, 2 classrooms, and I think the office and some hallway space. 2005, CC Case Elementary, the school I talked about before, closed, and 5th grade joins LB Clark, and no additions to the facility. So we basically absorbed the 5th grade without making any type of modifications to the school. Additional students equals packed classrooms, lunchrooms, gym space, and hallways. So it's definitely one of the key things that we identified during the survey. Then additional needs district-wide, improve building security. And again, that goes back to the safe entrances, so that we actually can monitor the people coming in the building, so that we have a place where an employee can talk to them before they have access to the rest of the school. Update building systems and technology access, and then renovate elementary and middle school playgrounds. And the playgrounds in our community, they're getting a little bit older, and we have been talking with Greg and Elizabeth and possibly doing a partnership with the city to improve some of the playground space for the entire community. Thank you very much.
So we're hoping that many of you received our community survey. What this survey has, it has been a tool for us so that we can collect information, collect feedback from the public. We are right now awaiting results. We haven't received anything from school perceptions yet, but we will be receiving some information in the future. Moving forward, as far as how much of an impact this would have on our mill rate, this would actually be an increase of 49 cents over our current mill rate, or on a $100,000 home, it would be an additional $49. And we would be working with Baird for any type of financing moving forward.
So you can see we have been doing some presentations. We've been to the Optimist Club, we've been to TRBA, so it was nice to see them here tonight. Although they probably had to now listen twice to this presentation. You'll also see that we are doing a variety of presentations in the community. So if you're on the stream and would like to attend that, or if you would like to see a longer version of this, we did have a shorter version and a longer version, but we knew you didn't want to sit here for an hour listening to us, so we cut it, some of that information out. So, and if you have questions, obviously my email is there and my phone number to call and ask questions. We're also putting together a frequently asked questions sheet, as well as when we're presenting a couple different questions have come up. All of that is available on our website. And we just wanted to end with a couple good things. At the elementary schools, the kids just got done with a Reading is Fundamental, where the kids were part of the Olympics. So you can see, I think one of my favorite pictures is one of the kids is down here. And this was, they were doing the luge and pushing each other around. The good news is just not too many injuries, a couple, but not too many. And at the high school level and the middle school level, we just finished the play, Susical the Musical, which was just exceptionally well done. If you were able to attend that, just a beautiful job, right? Yeah. So very proud of the kids and the teachers for the play. And we're tonight we have some kids coming home from Europe. They were able to go over spring break, and they will be coming back home, and we're so excited to have them back safe. So lots of good things happening in the district. So thought instead of taking questions, I know this has been long and you have a very long agenda. We thought if people had questions, we'll stay. And then after the meeting, we can answer your questions. And we also have extra PowerPoint presentations over there if someone wants to take one along. And if you want a presentation for your group, if you belong to a different group, you just got to let us know and we can come and do that for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Diane and team, and thanks for the outreach to the city, both on the facilities planning and on so many things we do together. The district and city have been good partners on TIF districts related to redevelopment activity in the city. And we may be at times in different silos, and the state and feds keep us there, but we're all part of a community with common goals. So thank you so very much, all of you, for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Greg, can we
And
get-
with that said, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank the city of Two Rivers and the council for agreeing to do it, that little land merger for us. It's very important with if this goes through. But again, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Greg, could we get the outreach future presentations on the city website right away so that
Absolutely.
community could follow up on it?
Yeah, I assume you're fine with our sharing this public domain. Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
There's a lot more information, but we knew
Yes, if you could share that as well, we'd be happy to share it through our Facebook and website. Bear with me just a minute, Mr. President. Yes, so now we are up to the city manager's report. This will be the long version, just kidding.
No, you're not.
Report, yeah, you're saying, yeah, right. First of all, it's kind of old news because it happened last Thursday, but the property's a lot older news than that. Again, wanted to share that the sale of 606 Parkway Boulevard, the 318,000 square foot former Paragon building, and the 27 acres of land that it sits on. That sale closed last Thursday to Trivers LLC. As you all know, that is an LLC controlled by Oshkosh developer Art Dumke. It was a $1.2 million sale, but to be exact, the net proceeds to the city's economic development fund, $1,197,031. That's $1.2 million less the title insurance and closing costs on the sale. The new owner doesn't have specific tenants in mind, but he's an industrial and warehousing landlord who plans to rehabilitate the facility and have it available for lease as manufacturing and or warehouse space, depending on what the local market priorities are. As a city, Elizabeth and I have referred several area companies to him that we know have been in touch about a need for more manufacturing or warehouse space. The city, through our community development office, has also applied for a Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation idle sites grant of $500,000 to assist the project. Estimated costs provided by Mr. Dumke's construction firm indicate an intent to invest a little over $6 million in the facility. It needs roof, it needs HVAC systems, plumbing, electric. Those council members have been, it needs mold remediation, which he has addressed and included in the budget. But the good news is we have a developer with relevant experience in like properties looking to, well, he already has returned the property to the tax roll, but looking to return it to productive economic use. So we thank Mr. Dumke and hope this isn't just the end of things with the sale, but the beginning of a long relationship of benefit to the community. That also should help our TID out there, I believe that's TID number 10, get out of a deficit situation by returning a property to the tax roll.
And a big thanks there to our city manager, Greg, and community development director, Elizabeth Runge, of course, Ross Blaha and Brian, both who have let people in there numerous times checking on the building, and a lot of paperwork went into this. And obviously thanking the council for their long work and hours putting into this, trying to sell this and finally reach somebody that's going to do some good things in Two Rivers. So great job. Bill.
Stay tuned.
Did Art Dumke say property that's?
All indications so far is he'd like to hold on to it and see how things transpire with the existing building. Like you said, it's always good to have the extra land, but he doesn't have specific plans. I should mention, I was returning from dropping off closing docs in Milwaukee last week. We got some things a little late to get them out FedEx or via the post office on Wednesday, and Art gave me a call. And first of all, he said, well, you don't sound like your usual chipper self. I said, well, it's because I haven't heard we've closed yet, and you're calling me. Call me superstitious. Oh, no. We just signed everything and sent it in. I said, okay, number one, I'm back to my usual chipper self. But he also, echoing Adam's comments, he passed along kudos to the city, notably for the outstanding job that Elizabeth and Ross and Brian have done in working with him and his people, being available, providing access. And he said, let me tell you, it doesn't work this way with every city. And I really hope there's the opportunity to work with your people again because they've treated us right. And that extends to council as well. So,
Outstanding job.
Yeah.
So our team really did well.
Good stuff there.
Greg, could I ask you, 1.2 ballpark is a lot of money. Can you tell us where that money
I
came from and where Greg Ward's going to go?
I've got some preliminary numbers from Dave Buss. What does the city have in there altogether, including paying off the delinquent back taxes, paying ourselves the utility bills, notably a hefty monthly electric bill, and the total accrued interest on it? We're on the order, I'm going from memory, of about 1.8 million. If you net out the penalty interest and maybe net out the payments to ourselves on the utilities, we're more down in the $1.5 million range. So didn't fully recoup all of the costs that have gone into the property, but I think given the extent to which the property's deteriorated in recent years, this is still a net win. It isn't a net positive on the green bar, but it's a
To
net
finish my
win.
question though, what I want to know is,
Oh.
that money that we
Oh,
did accumulate,
sure.
those interests were inflated, which contribute to the 1.8. But the question I have is, as I understand, it's not taxpayer property tax money, but it's
Right.
funds that have been accumulated
Every-
and will be used for future
point.
opportunities to development.
Yeah,
okay?
everything that's gone into this property from the city, paying the back taxes to the county, putting in building A new heating system, patching the roof with some frequency, paying those utility bills, has all come out of Fund 290, our Economic Development Fund, which was originally funded with community development block grants in the 1980s. The city got the grants, total of $1,250,000, loaned them to local companies. That's how the revolving loan fund had its origins. So that fund, which I want to say cash in hand plus outstanding loans, I'm sorry, I'm ballparking it, had about 400,000, and it is more in the neighborhood of $1.6 million. That's money that has historically been earmarked for economic development activity, be it loans, be it at least seed money for property purchase for resale, was federal money that actually a few years ago got defederalized. The city could, in theory, use it for anything at council's discretion, but at least to date, the sentiment has been to keep it in that economic development pot to help make more good things happen. So, yeah, goes back into 290. I expect at finance, I haven't even wanted to talk about this while the sale was pending, call it superstitious, but we should talk. Is it purely for loans? There are some strategic things like the CN Railroad right-of-way acquisition that impacts a lot of development sites that might be a worthy investment. That's all up to City Council. Thank you. Over on the other side of town at the Sandy Bay subdivision, the city developed conservation subdivision. Remind you, we had 8 lot sales there last year. We've been anxious to see some construction activity start up. Plans for 2 new homes were approved by the Architectural Review Committee on March 14th. 1 basement on Sandy Ridge is poured, and right across the street from it, another one is getting poured this week. Roffers was just starting to set forms up there when I stopped by around lunchtime today. The basement in the lower photo is for a spec home by a local investor. That'll be the first spec home that we've seen built at the subdivision. That's good news. And a local family is building the other one where they're just in the picture, they're just shown setting the forms. I did talk to one of our area home builders the other day, just knowing that he's developing plans for a couple of clients up there that have already bought lots. He indicated he's delivering those quotes, one of them this week, another one 2 weeks out. So if all goes well, that's at least 2 more new homes being built up there this year. And that's what we got our friends for the school districts still here. That's about tax base. That's about at least potentially new school age kids in the community, which is why the city got into this business in the first place. So that's looking good. And I just had to comment as I was headed out of there and took a picture looking back. It's taken a while, but it's really taking shape as a neighborhood up there as we see construction now proceeding into phase 2. And we have had dialogue, this phase 3 in the future is another 17 acres. I know the council president, myself, Elizabeth have all reached out to developers to see if somebody wants to take that on, both infrastructure and home building, which would be a good thing. And we'll continue to make those efforts. In the meantime, there are still lots available up there. And Amy Townsend, our listing agent, would be happy to help people out with us. A little more infrastructure, the Pine Tree Lift Station over on the east side, pretty necessary when I think we have 16 locations. Once in a while, you have to push raw sewage uphill to get it to a gravity sewer. This was an antiquated lift station on the order of want to say about a $600,000 project, 30% of it being funded through principal forgiveness, essentially grant money through the Clean Water Fund, and that construction is well underway. Parking ban. The crocuses are up, at least in some places, and the parking ban ended on March 15. As you all know, we had a relatively snow-free winter. It was enforced a grand total of 6 out of 103 days. So,
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
the community appreciate it. I'd suggest we maybe wing it again next year. Maybe we're on a glide path toward doing a snow emergency system instead of the general ban. I guess it all depends on whether what we saw as climate change or just a hiccup with this year's winter. Personnel updates. Pleased to say that Heather Eilenfeld of Mishicot has accepted the position of Senior Center Supervisor. She starts work on Monday, April 25. She is currently Marketing and Activity Director at the Manitowoc Health and Rehab Center. Once she's on board, we'll have her here to City Council meeting and, of course, Committee on Aging, whichever comes first, for introduction. Our current and future water utility directors have been engaged, along with Jamie Jackson, our city clerk, last week in interviews for upcoming vacancies we have for certified water operator and for our water distribution foreman / operator. Outstanding interviews last week from what I've told, and there'll be an initial offer going out within a week or two, first for the operator position. Then we've got a little more time on the foreman position, but really important positions in that utility. And I'm hearing very good things about the caliber of the applicants that we have. Also, Jamie Jackson and I have been doing Zoom interviews, 3 on Friday, 3 today, for a new Parks and Rec director. Our goal is to narrow that field down to 3 who would be invited for interviews and visits to the community, tours of the facilities. Would like a follow-up interview that would include a council advisory rec board representative or 2 as well. But happy to say again, we've got a pretty good crop of applicants, people with a variety of life experiences and a lot of enthusiasm about joining us here in Two Rivers. You heard from TRBA and their generous donation. I'll be getting a more updated report at the next agenda. Last meeting, we reported that we had hit $410,000 in fundraising. Happy to report tonight that total donations and pledges to the project now total just over $450,000. I think we took a commitment on an umbrella table today. Jamie, how much are those? $4,000. So that's on top of that total. There's been great response from the community, and so we're north of 56% of that fundraising goal, and less than 3 months into the fundraising. Later on tonight's agenda, the council will be asked to give the go-ahead to proceed with the rest of the design phase of the project. The election, of course, is coming up on Tuesday, April 5. That includes 4 positions on city council, 3 3-year terms for which there are 6 candidates, 1 2-year term for which there are 2 candidates. Absentee voting is available through the clerk's office here at City Hall starting tomorrow, March 22, and continuing Monday through Friday, that is, through Friday, April 2, and that's from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Stop at the customer service counter. They'll help you out, or they'll find Jamie to help you out. And there's a sample of the ballot. I know at least for council races, we've got that posted on the Facebook page as well, and that's been quite helpful, especially with the so-called special election for a 2-year term, which is separate from the 3-year terms. Would remind folks in the way of upcoming events, Two Rivers Rotary's 20th annual dinner and auction is on April 2 over at Sepia Chapel. For 20 years now, Rotary has used this as their major fundraiser for community projects they've supported. That includes things like the Rotary Overlook out on Mariners Trail, which was their very first project, the Rotary Pavilion at Neshota Beach, lighting at Vietnam Veterans Park, and also for various community groups like Painting Pathways and others that have benefited from Rotary's support. They're a fairly small group with a big impact in the community, and that's possible not just because of their efforts internally as a club, but because of the community's support for their fundraising, and notably this event. Tickets are available to the general public. It's in Two Rivers over at Sepia Chapel, dinner catered by the Courthouse Pub. There's a silent auction before the meal, and you can usually get a quick bid in right after the meal. And then there's also a live auction at 6:30. And until you've seen Bob Gall, Dr. Gall in action at the live auction, you haven't lived. And I know Adam got in a bidding war a few years ago and finally lost. Yeah, finally
Almost had to
lost
marry
out
him.
to the doctor, because little did we know that in that item was his proposal to his new wife. And he really didn't want Adam to outbid him on that. But I think it was good for the club. Again, that's all to benefit, to support Rotary's pledge, along with a private donor of $65,000 for Central Park West. And Colleen Inman of Rotary would be more than happy if you'd call her at the number listed or contact her at the email address listed. Oops, okay. Also, in the way of upcoming events, hey, we've been all, holed up with due to COVID for a while. So get on out while you can. Organized through the Central Park West 365 committee. Fundraising committee, Rockin' for the Park. That's an evening of dinner and music to raise funds for Central Park West 365. That'll be on Thursday, April 21 over at Sepia Chapel, again, to benefit Central Park West. Entertainment's being handled by Daddy D Productions, which does a lot of special entertainment around Northeast Wisconsin. And those tickets can be purchased online at the email address indicated. Also upcoming is the deadline on April 1. So best get a move on for 2 $500 applications being offered through Two Rivers Water and Light. One is specific to a student pursuing a college degree, 2-year, 4-year, doesn't matter, related to the energy industry. Might be in the wind power program at LTC, might be other things. Also one available for general studies or things that don't neatly fit under the energy heading. And those applications are being accepted at Two Rivers Water and Light. trwaterandlight.com is the website where you'll find that. Again, April 1 deadline. There is the Two Rivers Kids Run and 10-mile run walk out at Two Rivers High School on March 26 and 27. I'm sorry, I don't have the registration link up there, but you can go to exploretworivers.com to find that. Also, Two Rivers Main Street and the TRBA are jointly presenting a, that dinner keeps wanting to come up, a do-it-yourself workshop on do-it-yourself marketing in 15 minutes or less. That's part of their effort to provide services and learning opportunities for local businesses. $75 registration fee, and that's going to be offered March 29th over in the Behringer Room at the Community House. Yes. Okay. Okay. We'll make that revision before we post this, and pay no attention to the date up there. Thank you, Elizabeth. Senior Center breakfast for dinner fundraiser, just like, McDonald's, you can get breakfast all day now. I don't know how I know that, but at the Senior Center, they're offering an a la carte menu with breakfast pizza, pancake, bacon, sausage, a cup of fruit, apple juice fundraiser to benefit the Senior Center. And that is on Wednesday, April 13th, 4 to 6 p.m. Oh my, the firefighters with their outstanding Two Rivers Fire Department fish boil, 10th annual. They are offering, I believe, both carry out and in person this year, right, Chief? They needed special traffic direction last year during COVID. They were backed up 4 blocks, and it was worth it. So again, 10th annual supports a lot of the community support efforts of our firefighters local 423. Another great partner, the labor organization, they're a great partner with the city. Adults $13, kids meal $6, and beverage desserts are available. We do have available and currently out on the city's YouTube channel, the 2 candidate forums that were hosted here at City Hall that are noted up there. I know there is also available on the Constitutional Caucus Facebook page, I believe, the candidate forum that was held this past Sunday. We still have swag and we have a nice variety. And by the way, we're now into the black with revenue having exceeded dollars out and the cost of inventory in hand. And that is Two Rivers logo wear that's available locally at the 5 outlets listed up there. Schrader's, Lighthouse Inn, Fatso's, Woodland Dunes, and Renee's Chocolates. So you see more and more of it out there. Ah, yes, thank you, Bill. And soon to be at the Two Rivers Main Street office, which is moving to a downtown Washington Street location. So no excuse for not going around. I went into Schrader's the other day and both young ladies work in the coffee shop had the peach colored cowl neck sweatshirt. Looks very sporty. Recommended highly. Not for the guys. But people thought I had a cowl neck and I said, no, that's my neck. I hadn't shared the final room tax numbers for last year. Finally thought to ask Dave about it last week. Dave Buss, our finance director. You can see with that bar chart that we show a 4-year history. 2022 is the gold colored bar. Our revenues month by month exceeded, sometimes greatly, the revenues for all prior years. The only time it didn't happen was in August when it was just a little bit off, August of last year. Total revenues, the 8% room tax for the year garnered $261,161. And that's an even better percentage than I've been spouting lately because you can see December was an amazing month. So we ended up last year with collections 84% over 2021. And 2021 was a record year. So something's going right in that part of the community's development efforts. Yeah, we'll talk about that some more at Room Tax Commission tomorrow. A legislative update, just a few things in the state and federal sphere. You probably heard some of the press last week where the governor on March 15th announced spending of some of the state's American Rescue Plan Act money to police agencies across the state. A total of $19 million was awarded. We understand distribution was based on population, but also based on violent crime stats, which benefited some of the larger urban metro areas a little bit higher. We expect there'll be more details forthcoming, but Chief Kohlmeyer has shared that the preliminary indications are that this money can be used for training, recruitment bonuses, technology investments, and meeting community policing needs. Two Rivers will be receiving just over $31,700, which on a per capita basis is pretty comparable to what you see there going to other agencies like City of Manitowoc, City of Kiel, and Manitowoc County. From the League of Municipalities, and this is just a little sampling of some of the things from the last legislative session. As we've mentioned before, sometimes it's good when a bill passes. Sometimes it's good news for municipalities when a bill dies, because not every idea that comes up in Madison is a good one when it comes to the community level. Among the positives, the League cited Act 175, which expands the types of projects that can use PACE financing, so-called PACE financing, that, for example, included the Two Rivers Hotel project. It's a special type of financing that ultimately allows, as a collection method, the levying of a local special assessment to make sure that the loan gets paid back. So again, 2 area legislators from Green Bay and Fond du Lac authored the legislation. We've talked about it a little before. The League worked hard to stop efforts to fast track requirements that every city's zoning ordinance provide language that would allow in certain districts multifamily housing. It's all under the banner of workforce housing, which is a good thing. But the League's view on this was, and I think you would share it, if you believe in local control and local decision-making about zoning, we don't need things rammed down our throats from the state legislature, even though it may be within their legal authority to do so. So that did not pass. And another one we've touched on there, and again, this is just excerpted from the League of Municipalities update. There was a piece of legislation that the League and the municipal electric utilities supported that would have made it clear that local units of government, cities, villages, whatever, could set up electric vehicle charging stations and simply doing that would not require that you be regulated as a public utility. course, we are a public utility with our electric utility already. But then along came an amendment, which I understand the Wisconsin Manufacturing and Commerce was a big advocate for, providing that local governments and local public utilities could not build out any electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So again, I'm not here saying we should as a city or shouldn't, but one might argue that ought to be up to you as locally elected officials, not something that gets preempted from a special interest group in Madison. And in this case, the legislature saw fit and that legislation didn't see light of day. So just a little bit of the sausage making, and sometimes it's good when things pass, sometimes it's not. From what I know, the legislation we also talked about that would allow development on areas that have been filled along urban waterways in Lake Michigan that have been filled for years, but there's some cloud as to whether they still are lake bed and protected by public trust doctrine. That passed the legislature. I think it's still sitting on the governor's desk. There's some real concern about a possible veto, but I haven't heard that it's either been vetoed or signed at this time.
While you're on other, Greg, any update on the approval process of that storage in our industrial park, where that stands and potential?
No update on that.
Okay.
Yep. Not at this point. Not a lot of money, but some good news shared by Senator Baldwin's office that the omnibus appropriations bill that passed the Congress earlier this month includes $20,000. We don't usually talk about $20,000 in the federal budget, but this is funding that would start a process, we hope, where the Army Corps would assess the federal interest, so-called, in doing a design deficiency study of the Two Rivers Harbor. This council's gone on record several years now. We've had joint letters of support from, yes, Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson and Glenn Grothman. You don't see all those names on the same letter too often. Supporting an appropriation for this $200,000 design deficiency study on the harbor. We just heard this year about the need for a determination of federal interest, which our friends at the Chicago office, the district office of the Corps of Engineers, tell us is necessary. So this is for the Corps to determine if there's a federal interest in studying our harbor, which would hopefully bring to the forefront this roughly $200,000 study to determine whether our shoaling and surge problems in the harbor just might relate to the way it's designed. Do you think? God bless the process. But this is, we're told, a necessary step in what is the ultimate goal of seeing some structural modification of that harbor entrance to reduce the surge we get when winds come out of the southeast with fall storms, and to reduce the frequency of maintenance dredging with the outer harbor filling up. So it's a long saga. Hopefully this is a step forward. By the way, that map on the right shows the limits of the so-called federal channel in Two Rivers. Federal maintenance responsibility extends on the East Twin up to the 22nd Street Bridge, and really just by Seagull Marina, not even to the Washington Street Bridge on the West Twin. So we'll keep you posted on that one. We did get confirmation last week that the state's Safe Drinking Water Fund does have the money in place and available now for the 2022 lead service lateral replacement. This is the money to help with private side replacement on private property past the right-of-way. Our application is funded for $207,500, and that will cover 83 private side laterals at $2,500 each. We applied for 33 on 17th Street in tandem with that reconstruction, and 50 at scattered locations around the city. So do the math. That's $2,500 each. So it would be the same amount of assistance to homeowners as has been provided the last several years. Sometimes $2,500 covers it. Other times the homeowner may incur a cost depending on how deep their front yard is and then where their meter is located once you get into the basement. But this means we can move ahead. At the work session next Monday, we want to talk about the April 2 deadline to apply for the first round of DOT monies to assist with local street reconstruction. And the state is only interested in that round in helping with resurfacing projects. But we've got some ideas that maybe if we concentrated those 50 scattered location laterals on 1 or 2 streets and got them done this year, all we'd need on those streets next year would be resurfacing, and we could save some money for the city and the homeowners on those streets. So that'll be discussion next week. Another piece of good news, and kudos to our engineering department and to the folks at McMahon Associates who've helped us on that. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources has issued a permit to allow grooming of what we still call the new beach. That's new with no D in it. New beach, south of Neshota Beach to the North Pier. That permit is good for 5 years, and it allows the city to dredge. And yes, that's the word in the permit, because we're below the ordinary high water mark. We're technically working in the bed of Lake Michigan, which thankfully is dry and has sand on it now, to remove debris. And that's a big deal. That covers the area that reemerged as beach because of the last harbor dredging, and a good portion of which is still there. So there'll be a little interruption at the end of 17th by the outfall, but now we basically have a permit for all of Neshota as we know it, and then from 17th Street to the North Pier. So again, good work, engineering and McMahon. And that essentially is my report. Thank you.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. Moving on to number 10, which is the consent agenda. Under A, we have a presentation of minutes for the regular city council meeting, March 7th, 2022, and the special city council meeting on March 15th, 2022. The recommended action here is a motion to waive reading and adopt the minutes. Under B, we have meetings of minutes. There are 6 of those. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. Under C, department reports for March 2022, we have 11. The recommended action there is a motion to receive and file. Under D, for applications and petitions, we have an application for a temporary Class B retail license for Heart-O-Rama for the period of April 28th through the 30th of 2022 at J.E. Hamilton Community House, 1710 West Park Street. We also have an application for a temporary Class B and a Class B retail license for Heart-O-Rama for the period of March 5th through the 7th, 2022 at the J.E. Hamilton Community House, 1710 West Park Street. The recommended action here is a motion to approve the application and authorize issuance of the licenses. Under E, we have a zoning change from B1 Business District to R3 Single and Double Family Residence District for 2910 Lincoln Avenue. The recommended action is a motion to schedule public hearing for April 4th, 2022 at 6 p.m. as recommended by the Plan Commission meeting on March 14th, 2022. And under F, we have an ordinance to amend the side yard requirements in residential zoning district. The recommended action is a motion to schedule public hearing for April 4th, 2022 at 6 p.m. as recommended by the Plan Commission meeting on March 14th, 2022. The recommended action for the consent agenda is a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jay. Any discussion? Mark?
I have 2 questions, which we all, as city council, get to read these in-depth reports each department makes, and they're really interesting. But specifically on the police department, I have 2 questions regarding a couple comments in the report. One, I'd like to share with the community and learn a little bit more about your virtual reality stimulator training process. It's very intriguing. And the second, I'd like a little more detail about the new community service officer that you've moved forward with.
So it's not a stimulator. It's a simulator. I will say though, when I describe it, it was very stimulating for me. So just to explain it, in the last couple of years, we worked with Northeast Technical College and they provide us with equipment and the resources available to do this training. So we do this yearly. And in the past, what they've done is basically it's like a screen like you're looking at right here with functioning weapons, just like what we carry, but obviously they don't shoot the same projectiles. And what you would do is you would interact with the screen and different things on there. Now the stimulating part is it's all virtual reality now. So this was new to me, and that's where I joke that it is stimulating. I wasn't part of any virtual reality in the past. So as you've seen probably in that annual report, the officers look a little awkward. That's because they're completely interacting with virtual beings within this screen. So I give kudos to Lieutenant Rates for putting together not only that annual report, but also this training yearly. And I got to watch both take part in it and also watch how he was interacting. So if you can imagine from the virtual reality scenario, you could take like a simple domestic or a bar fight or something like that. And basically what happened was we utilized a room down in the municipal courtroom about the size of what's in front of you so that officer could interact anywhere within that frame. And it was a virtual world that they were looking at. So it looked like one was a bar establishment that I was in, and it was a little strange at first looking around. So you see the officers just kind of getting their bearings, but then you would interact, and Lieutenant Rates could actually talk as dispatch. He could talk as the suspect. He could make that person react however you were reacting, or contrary to what you were asking him to do. So it really put it a real world scenario in place for the officers. So a lot of that was actually not like a shoot, don't shoot like you see on TV a lot. A lot of that was de-escalation. It's that key word that you hear a lot, but you don't really see it incorporated. So we do a lot of training with de-escalation and taking some what seems at face value like an extreme circumstance and really bring that down to something you can work out. So yeah, it was fun. Your second question, I guess you were asking about
Service department, the new addition to that department, what it will benefit and how it benefits the community?
Yeah, so the community service officer, as most of you know, that is probably the most thankless job in ways because of just how involved that officer is. We have been lucky and fortunate that we have Officer Culligan retired and took over that position again. So he started his position as a CSO and now he's finishing his career as a CSO. And we couldn't be luckier to have him. But we're also cognizant that he's not going to be around forever. He's going to want to retire at some point. So now Eric Raboyne came on board. He's filling that position to really supplement what Culligan is doing. And the two of them are working great together right now. Eric's really learning the city. He's really developed his skills as far as finding these areas of concern. Those areas being anything from your dog feces complaints to, the sidewalk complaints to the neighborhood disputes, all those quality of life issues that we all kind of take for granted that somebody's addressing. That's really his full-time job. So that's what he's doing 24/7. And in addition to that triad, I like to plug triad because I take part with those members. Along with triad, they're really doing a lot for the community as far as seeking out these things and addressing them and working with the citizens to take care of those things.
Thank you for that service. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else? Bonnie, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, for number page 37 where it said, just a minute, sorry. Senior Center pre-construction meeting, is that still that same window?
Yep,
Okay.
that's the drive-through. Yep.
Anything else? Any other discussion? Bill?
I just wanted to ask about the side yard thing, basically that looked to simplify in the code.
Yes, there, and Elizabeth could speak to it as well. There, when it comes to the required side yard setbacks, I think just in the R residential districts, they get expressed as a minimum number of feet or a certain percentage, whichever is less. And I gotta say, within the zoning code, it's the one that leaves most people scratching their heads as to what it means right now. And we did at Plan Commission question Vicky, does this have the potential to adversely affect many lots in the city? And she didn't see it doing that. But the main intent, though, is simplify and make, so there's one standard instead of doing a calc and comparing it to another standard and deciding which applies. So be happy to discuss that further, though, at the hearing as well. Yeah, we don't really want to take zoning code. Simpler is better too.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Going to number 11, which is city council formal items. We did take care of A earlier on. So going right to B. B is to authorize contract for completion of design services and bid documents for Central Park West 365 project. The recommended action is a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the design service contract with Parkitecture and Planning with services to be billed on time and material basis. Total cost not to exceed $78,120. If you want further information, you can go to page 105 in our packets. Otherwise, I'm going to defer to Greg.
Yeah, basically, the council by action last fall authorized funding, I think it was $45,000, to get us to the 30% design phase of the project. So that's the authorization we've been operating under as the concept plans have been finalized, the design refined. So we were able to have a meeting of the minds with the council and the design committee in November, and the work that Parkitecture has done since then. If we want to stay on track to bid the project out midsummer, say July of this year, we need to keep the design work moving forward. So this authorization would get us to bid documents as well as the evaluation of bids that come in. We would, if the bids are acceptable and approved by council, then we would ask for specific authorization on the construction phase or inspection services. We don't have, like I said, we don't have all of our fundraising done, but per the earlier report, we're at 56.25%, 450,000 out of 800,000. Or if you look at the whole budget with the city's commitment of 500,000, the West Foundation's 300,000 that's in hand. Another way of looking at it, on a total $1.6 million budget, we're at 78%. I'm confident we're going to get there on the fundraising. If perchance we don't, then I guess I certainly don't see the project not proceeding, but we might have to do some value engineering or some phasing to make it happen. But just like so many of our projects, we can't, there's lead time to getting design finalized and bid docs together. So we're now at the point that we should move on that to stay with the timeline we've set for bidding the project out, starting construction this fall, wrapping it up in the spring of 2023. There is in the adopted capital budget for 2022 for Central Park West 365, that's Capital Fund 415, $150,000 budgeted for other services, and that would come out of that already approved budget line item.
So this is not a budget amendment. We already have this budgeted, just so everyone knows.
If it's a budget amendment, it would trigger a 2/3 majority. This is simple majority required.
All right, thank you very much. Looking for a motion on this.
Also a motion.
Thank you, Larry. Second by Bill. Council discussion. Go ahead, Jeff.
So that's, in general, it's coming out of the 250,000, I think, that we had set aside for this.
Correct.
500,000,
Yeah,
correct?
I mean, correct, Jeff. We've assured any of the donors, if for some reason this project doesn't go, or which looking less likely all the time, we would presume everybody get their donations back. So if you will, the risk capital, if you will, that 150,000 is out of the 250,000 the council's authorized for borrowing.
Okay, I thought so. I just wanted to make it clear for everybody.
No, thank you for the clarifying question.
Anybody else? This should probably be the last time that we have anything that we have to agree with them on, except for post, from what I read in the packet. Is that probably correct?
Except for, I'm sorry?
The post-construction or
Right,
post-design
right.
assistance.
Yeah,
So
I
this should
think
be the last time.
Hopefully the next action item is awarding bid.
Yep.
And authorizing the help post construction.
Okay. Carla, did you have anything? Don't want to ignore you. Okay, I don't think,
I thought I was on mute. Anyway, no, I'm just glad that we're at this point, and it's exciting. And I think with our fundraising, I think we're ahead of the game since, I mean, we haven't been soliciting the donations for that long. And before we really got going, we already had some. So we are already in front of it. So, we still have some time, and, we've got more fundraising opportunities that people in the community can participate in. So it's going to be a good project, and we're getting closer and closer and closer. And we've got to throw a big party when it's done. So close that street. So, but yeah, it's good.
all right, very good. Looking for a roll call vote. Jamie?
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Jay Remiker.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Aye.
Larry Thomas.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Mark Bittner.
Aye.
Jeff Delkey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Going on to C. C is a ordinance to amend the municipal code, section 6-4-4, entitled Applicants for Registration Fees, and 6-4-9, entitled Vendors from Special Vehicles regarding direct sales. The recommended action here is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. You can look to page 110 in your packet. Otherwise, it looks like Assistant Chief Meinert's gonna tee us up maybe on this one, eh?
Sure.
All right.
So first off, as far as the direct sellers ordinance amendments, a lot of these things are practices we were already doing. So we've had discussions over the last year and a half, both with the city manager, Rebecca, Terry Vosters when she was here, regarding just amending the ordinance so that we're not doing this year after year and making it more consistent. Some of those things involved especially the beach, as far as Latnick and the lots 1 and 5 that we were placing vendors in, as to not basically contradict what was taking place at the concession stand where they're paying, they're leasing out that area for those concessions, and then not having somebody selling concessions right on top of them for the most part. So that's what we looked at doing. As well as adding in trailer into that, knowing that you could be selling from a vehicle, but also just a trailer. So you could literally tow a trailer down there and leave a trailer, and that wouldn't be in line with what our current ordinance was. Yeah, and I think that's it. I guess I'm open to questions if you have any.
All right, let's start with a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bonnie. Now council discussion. Bill?
Application.
Yeah, that on a separate one, I guess. Yeah, we were looking at doing that. So the direct seller increasing from 10 to 20, basically just the amount that it takes for records checks, and you'll see that on the taxi and taxi driver as well, costs more, and then the labor involved in pulling that information and investigating that, and just keeping it in line with both of those things.
Anybody else?
Just note, the old ordinance had a general prohibition without special council authorization for vending on Washington Street, basically from the bridge by McDonald's to 22nd Street, page 116, sub E. This adds that general prohibition to 22nd Street from Forest to the west end of 22nd Street near Neshota Road. You think about that, you probably generally don't want people vending from vehicles in that area, either because it's Highway 42, Highway 147, or it's right next to the park when you get further east. And also a general prohibition absent the council's approval for vending from, is it in here? Pierce. Did we talk about Pierce?
We had discussed Pierce, but I don't believe Pierce was added to there.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was going to be. So you might want to consider that, because again, Pierce from 22nd to Zlotnick is interior to the park. And again, I would think without special counsel permission, we'd want to.
I guess with that consideration, I'd also think about 21st Street in that area as well.
Yeah, you'd impact a lot of homes with that.
And the parking area that we already have in place there.
Of course, the parking area is within a park, but the streets, those might be apt additions as well.
I guess I would also note that we did add in verbiage as far as insurance, similar to some of our other ordinances.
Okay, well, we are going to take a vote on this, so are we going to add this to our motion? That is something to think about, but we'll go to Bonnie for another question.
Well, yeah, it just kind of hit me. Is this supposed to be, is this for people traveling around the city? Because you did have something about little bells they can have on their little trucks.
Yeah, so if you would think about like an ice cream truck
Yeah.
selling, that's what that's referring to. And that we haven't changed any of that.
Okay, and then they can park in one place. Now, do they have to tell you where they're parking? I mean, do you have to know that in order to make it like legal?
This is prohibiting certain areas without the
Okay.
different
Oh,
approvals
okay.
from either the Parks and Rec or the city manager or the city council.
Right, all right.
Okay, so are we looking to add Pierce in there? And are we looking to add Pierce and 21st in there?
Good point. I'm sorry, I hadn't read this, but I would recommend certainly adding Pierce from 22nd to Zlatnik, which is just the section of Pierce that lies within Neshoda Park. 21st, I'm assuming you're talking from Pierce to one block to the west, over to Garfield. Thank you, Chief.
I would certainly think we should probably add Pierce, if you want my opinion. But I didn't make the motion. So whoever made that motion and seconded
I'll
that.
make the motion to add Pierce and 21st. Garfield.
Okay. Who was my second? Was that Bonnie?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, any other discussion among council? Or questions to Assistant Chief? See none, Jamie, roll call.
Carla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Jay Remiker,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis,
Hi.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Husky, Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Jeff Dalkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you for that. Good discussion. Going on to D, which is discussion of ordinance related to non-vehicular travel, such as e-bikes, motorized gas-powered bikes, and various types of scooters. Citizens and staff of the City of Two Rivers have recognized the gap in regulation and enforcement of issues relating to these new devices. A recommended action here is a motion to place on the April 4th, 2022 City Council agenda for action. Page 119 in our packet, and I think Assistant Chief Meinert is going to help us out with this one as well.
Yeah, so I've become quite extensively knowledgeable on some of these things that I didn't intend on. There's been a lot of changes in the last couple of years with Governor Evers changing and adding electric scooters and electric mobility devices into this. I think everybody's pretty aware of what an electric bike is, what an electric scooter may be. As far as electric mobility device, I guess I was under the impression that that meant like a disabled scooter device, but that's not the case. That's more of your Segway or hover type board. That's what that's describing. So none of this is intended to interfere with the Disabilities Act. So what I mean by that is, as far as statute goes, the American Disabilities Act says that anybody can use a device in any of these areas as long as it's slow moving and intended for the ability for the disabled to move. So it wouldn't affect that. It also doesn't affect anything as far as regarding play vehicles. Play vehicles are already regarded in state statute as not being able to operate on the roadways. So these are all things that are currently able to operate on the roadways and currently able to operate on roadways as bicycles. A great deal of this was definitions, as well as adding into the idea of non-motorized. So when I explain that these things are available to go on streets and roadways, they operate like bicycles on roadways. On trails, that's a little bit different story. So we can govern that as a municipality. And what we've seen is an influx of different motorized type vehicles on our trails and on our roadways. So if you've seen them out, obviously we have Segways that are operating in town. We have electric scooters, we have e-bikes, and we've had a lot of complaints and we've had a lot of concerns as far as speed on the trails, what can operate as far as an electric vehicle or a gas vehicle. So what we've included here is the intention of incorporating all these things that are now under statute onto our trails and governing that. I did reach out to the sheriff's department and also the city of Manitowoc. And what I've heard is essentially they know too that they need to upgrade their ordinances and they have not done so. And they would look to do something consistent with our policies. I just recently spoke today with Manitowoc and they had looked at it with their attorney as well, and didn't see any issues. And we're looking at doing something consistent that would work with us, being that we share the Mariner Trail.
Did we reach out to Mariners Trail as well? The Friends of Mariners Trail, that is?
I did not reach out to the Friends of the Mariners Trail.
Okay, you're good? Okay, so then before council discusses, we need a motion. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Bonnie. Do I have a second? Thank you. Discussion?
Just briefly to Adam's point, certainly we can provide a draft of this to Friends of Mariners Trail. But part of the reason there's a lot of detail to this ordinance. That's why this and the next one we were just bringing for preliminary discussion tonight, with the idea of bringing it back on April 4 to adopt. If there's any consensus on the council on changes you want to see in this, that could be also included in a motion or amendment to the motion to refer it to the next meeting. If I could direct one question to AC
Sure.
Minor. You also see vehicles retrofitted in some real interesting ways with gasoline-powered engines. They're loud as heck, and at least as a trail user, they go way too fast sometimes relative to bicycle speeds on the trail. Does this directly address?
This does address that it would be more human-powered or pedal bike or pedestrian, electric or green-powered vehicles on our trails, not gasoline power. And I would also add that those gasoline powered makeshift devices that you're talking about would not be legal on the roadway either.
Okay, thank you.
Council discussion? Larry?
I was just gonna ask for clarification. The path that, not the sidewalk outside of the beach, but the path that actually goes through the sand on the beach, are these vehicles?
That would be described as a recreational trail.
Okay, perfect,
Yep.
thank you.
Mark?
And maybe to that point too, if I look at page 120, the bicycle way or public recreational trail, and you also use the term sidewalk, can you maybe kind of summarize the intent of that statement? That's on page 120, the third paragraph from the bottom.
Sorry, I don't have it listed the same way as you.
Bicycle way or public
It's
recreational.
on the first page of your ordinance draft.
You got the term sidewalk too.
There are, if I could, I know, and hopefully Ben and I agree on this, there are areas where we've designated sidewalks as bicycles permitted on the bridges.
Yeah, that was my example, is specifically on the bridges. You can operate on that portion of the sidewalk to get across the bridge.
And Riverview, not?
Riverview, on one side there, and I believe the extra wide sidewalk on the east side of Jefferson Street from East River to 17th, over to and across the 17th Street Bridge, and down East Street where we've got that extra wide, it's concrete, but it's a combination sidewalk and trail. So the council has identified areas that are either, I guess the bridges would be the only place where what we all look at and say, well, that's a sidewalk. Bikes are allowed in Riverview. But there are other areas where combination ped and bicycle ways were designed that way in lieu of sidewalk.
Should we put any path or sidewalk and then in parentheses where permitted?
Yeah.
So people don't think that sidewalk in general is allowed, and it is allowed where it is permitted on those specific ones, bridges, Riverview, and the east side of Jefferson?
I might crystallize it and really make it perfectly clear.
Yeah, we could certainly do that.
That way when someone reads it, they know.
for sure.
Signage on all of those.
There is, but if you read this, it looks like you can use it on any sidewalk.
Okay.
Yeah, I did just,
Well,
because I want
and
to,
maybe,
It still regards the sidewalks later on in the ordinance. That remains unchanged from what it was.
and actually, although you have to read into it a bit, it's any path, sidewalk, or portion thereof off roadway or property owned or leased by the city and designated for use by pedestrians, bicycles, electric scooters. So it does contemplate a designation. It's not each and every sidewalk.
but I think just to Adam's point, a further clarification doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah. So what, Jamie, did you get that wording from Adam? Maybe you want to.
But after sidewalk in parentheses, yeah, I think Assistant Chief
Permitted.
put it down. We're permitted,
Yep.
correct. Anybody else? Jeff?
Several people, young and old alike, said that they really don't want them on Mariners Trail. They said, you're walking out minding your own business, somebody just comes flying past you.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate part, if I might add, is that when Governor Evers signed into law, he allowed for those e-bikes and segways to operate basically anywhere where a bicycle can. And that included trails. Now, we could definitely govern that, but then it might fall inconsistent with to the north of us or to the south of us.
And I know from discussions, actually at Friends of Mariners Trail a long time ago, the national parks have allowed e-bikes on their trails. I share that concern, though, that Jeff expressed. It's just pretty much the world, including our state, have gone that way. Now, we have speed limits posted out on the trail.
That was my next point to Jeff.
Can I ask that question myself?
Was the speed limit was the big concern with that, because some of these e-bikes are traveling at excessive speeds, or they felt that they were. So we were looking at 15 miles per hour being an acceptable speed for on the trail to not interfere with all the other different modes of transportation out there.
Bill, you had your hand up?
I was just gonna suggest that, and maybe just have it, all that an e-bike can only go 15. Have them to go 30.
Yeah, but on the roadways, I don't think you'd be able to do that. And a bicycle, a pedal bicycle can travel at normal speeds on the roadway too.
Bikes can,
Right, but they could still be governed when they're on the roadway as far as any other vehicle on the roadway.
Bonnie?
Yeah, this is fine. The ordinance is fine. I will vote for it and everything, but the bicycles are still on the sidewalks, and you don't think these other guys are gonna go on there? And I did have one question. Personal assistant device, is that a wheelchair? An electric wheelchair?
No, that's what I explained earlier on, is that was my thought as well, but really what that describes is like a Segway.
Oh. Well, those
So
people
that-
fall down.
So that's in the
anyway, so-
definition. It's basically the new technology where they have two wheels that can self-balance. So any version of that would be that mobility device. As far as the disabled devices, that could be any slow-moving vehicle. So that could be any one of these vehicles that's listed in here or something else. But if it's for the ability for somebody disabled to move around and transport, then it's not regulated by us. We can't regulate that. Similar to like a service animal. That's another thing by the American Disabilities Act that we can't regulate.
Jeff?
We somehow differentiate in that ordinance, there's a definite speed limit on the trails. I understand you should be able to let them go 25 miles an hour on the streets,
Yeah, we have
they're
the
legal.
We have the 15 miles per hour
It-
on the
it will be
trails and
15.
recreation areas.
Okay,
We have that
just
listed.
so that people coming into town know that.
Yeah,
even
well,
15 is a little
and we
fast.
talked, I think there'd have to be some information passed out, where we could have pamphlets, we could maybe have some signage, including that, and then also work with Manitowoc on that to make sure that, we're working with our partnership on, the resource that we have here with the Mariners Trail.
But honestly, a lot of bicycles go a lot faster than 15 miles an hour on the trail. We can post it, but.
On my bike. I can't pull that hard.
Anybody else for discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And anyone opposed?
This will be
All
back
right.
again per the motion on your your April 4 agenda for action.
All right, good discussion there. On to E, another discussion item. Discussion of ordinance to amend municipal code, section 1-2-1, entitled License, Permit, and Other Fees Established associated with direct sellers, taxi, and taxi driver fees. The recommended action is a motion to place on the April 4th, 2022 City Council agenda for action. Page 128 in your packet. Assistant Chief is still up there, so my guess he's gonna tee us off on this too.
That works for you. The direct seller, as I explained to Councilmember Leclerc, we are looking to reflect just the actual real cost and increase that. In addition to that, the taxi driver, it's the same thing, really. We're doing the same background checks for a taxi driver because of the nature of the piece there. And then taxi, we were looking at increasing those fees to better reflect, similar to golf cart inspections. We do inspections on these things, and they are time consuming and making sure that they're up to par. So I think the price should reflect that. And then again, adding in the language that I just spoke about in the bicycle ordinance.
Okay, looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Larry. Any discussion? Mark?
Question I ask is, with the taxi and taxi cab I understand the driver, maybe the taxi more, but with the escalation and increase in the gas cost of gas so much, I mean, do we, is it truly, do we have to go all the way up to 25? I'm only sensitive of a private business owner trying to make a living here. I mean, is that necessary to cover all our costs of processing? And
Well, like I said, what we did was we made it consistent with the golf cart ordinance. We weren't looking at anything excessive, just something that better reflected what we were doing as far as an inspection, and we do similar with the golf carts.
I mean, there's not much you can get accomplished for $5. I mean, in all reality, there's no way you're going through all that for $5 and breaking even by any means.
20 instead of 25. I don't know. I'm just sensitive to a business person.
Yeah.
Us are jumping.
Our loaded rate.
I'd venture that guess for a police officer when you add in the benefits. So
The chief says higher than that. Chief Colmeyer speaking in the back of the room says higher than that yet. So, yeah, I understand, but I mean, we got a budget too. But I do sympathize with the same thing. Anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That brings us to 12 for information only. Greg?
come as no surprise to you, our next meeting is next Monday, the monthly work session. Things right off the bat would be hopefully a closed session discussion of the development agreement for 3000 Forest Avenue, the TID 15 project. Also, that list of possible applications for the first round of DOT street funding through the ARPA things. Undoubtedly some other discussion items as well. We do have a regular council meeting on April 4, and this council will continue, if you will, in its lame duck session on April 18. The new council meets for its organizational meeting, I believe the night after, so on the 19th, and any new members are sworn in. Council president and VP are elected for the coming year. So this council's here for, even with, assuming we don't call any special meetings, 3 more meetings, the March 28, April 4, and April 18. Again, the reminder about in-person absentee voting being available starting tomorrow, but from then forward, Monday through Friday, until April
1st.
It is the 1st. I misstated earlier. I'm sorry. At the customer service window at City Hall, 8 to 4:30. Don't be coming here on Saturday or Sunday to vote absentee because you won't find anybody. And we'll get that corrected on the PowerPoint. And of course, the spring election coming up, April 5, polling places, 2 polling places in the city, open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., well staffed and ready to serve your voting needs. Would ask for the closed session tonight, which would be limited. Actually, we're not going to be talking about the TID 15 development agreement that was tabled to a week out, but would like some discussion about developer interest and possible city assistance to a redevelopment project on the former Eggers East site down here on the river at 20th Street. I would note we always include on the agenda a stated topic for the closed session. Doesn't mean we lay everything out in detail, but that's been a question I've heard just recently at a candidates forum. And it's more than just doing the statutory citation. There is a general statement of the topic to be discussed. Otherwise, we run afoul of the law, and almost as bad, we run afoul of Mr. Bruce, our city attorney.
Get
So,
that
Mr.
right. I got one more for
Mr.
information.
President,
Oh,
if I
go
could
ahead.
bring comment to that too. And number 14 will always indicate if a motion or a decision is made in a closed session, we'll come back in public session and talk publicly about.
Right. If there's the possibility of action in open session, we list it. So people could stick around if
We're
they
not
wish.
hiding anything, right?
Right. Yeah, and actually, I do not anticipate any action upon reconvening tonight because we're not going to be talking about the TID 15 agreement, which was a possibility, and the possible assistance through the TIF district on the Eggers property is not at this point in the form of a development agreement. It's more general parameters.
Greg, this is for you and Jamie. Now, a lot of people have been asking me now that we switched down to only 2 polling locations, can you go to either one or you are still set in your ways? I just want to make that clear for everybody. You still have.
Yep.
To have
And
it
everybody should have
designated.
gotten a mailing on that, right?
Not a specific mailing to them, but it's been in the utility bills. It's been posted online.
Right.
So wards 1 through 5 go to St. Peter's, and then Abundant Life Church is wards 6 through 8.
Thanks. I just want to clarify that.
That's a good point.
I had one more, touching on the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are a preschool or elementary kid and want to join in on that, please contact Greg's assistant. That email address is lkuhen@two-rivers.org. Is that correct? No, don't listen to me.
Kuehn.
Okay.
Lisa Keen, LKUEHN @two-rivers.org. And we will post that out on social media along, assuming we have the parents' permission, with a picture of the wonderful young lady that led tonight.
Yep. And I didn't pass spelling apparently.
What a great tradition to start. So,
Another mailing? No. No, it's been in utility bills, so.
Sign up.
Yep, there's signs posted at City Hall, Grace Church, because it's no longer there, St. Peter's, the community house, the library, so it's posted.
So if they go to those locations, it's going to tell them, hey,
Yes,
it's
and we'll
not
have
here,
signs
go
out
here.
probably at the main parking area saying no voting here today.
we can do one more round of social media posts and share
That'd
it
be
to the
helpful.
community groups as well.
Yeah, I think the word is getting out. I've received a lot of phone calls too, verifying locations, so.
Tracy?
The community house, does that include the senior center board?
I sent signs over. I don't know which
they
doors
put
they
'em?
posted them on, but they got several
I'll
signs.
cruise through there tomorrow.
We have Rebecca Hansen in back, and I'm sure she's all over that. And she'll make sure that the signs are up on every door that you can
Thank
enter in
you.
that building. She's going to be on top of it. I know it.
Get thee to the senior center, Rebecca. Yeah.
All right, on to 13, closed session. The city council reserves the right to enter into closed session per Wisconsin statutes 19.851E when deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Tonight on the agenda, we will discuss possible tax incremental financing grant to assist redevelopment project on the city-owned former Eggers East plant site. We'll also discuss terms of TID 15, cash grant and developers performance agreement listed as agenda item 11A. And I'm looking for a motion. I think we can still
I'll make the
discuss it.
motion.
Tracy, thank you. Second. Larry, any discussion?
And just to reiterate, we anticipate no action being taken by the council on reconvening an open session other than to adjourn for the night. You can still stick around for when they come back, but they'll only be adjourning. And just a reminder, you might want to do a 10-minute recess. The folks from the school district have stuck around.
Got it. Looking for a roll call vote. Jamie?
Remaker,
Aye.
Bonnie Shamulanis,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Huskey,
Aye.
Mark Bittner, Jeff Dalkey.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mark.